So you were just talking about data collaboration.
Yeah.
What is data collaboration in your opinion?
It's a great question. There's a vastly broad definition depending on who you talk about. When I think about data collaboration, I really think about foundationally, it's about how you can leverage your data, partner data, and third-party data in a way that you can action off of it, drive insights off of it, and do that. Saying that, I understand that, again, that can unlock so much. The closest thing I would say is one, it's oftentimes correlated with a clean room. And then the other piece of it is it's really around partner data, being able to take your first party data and potentially a partner's first party data and being able to share data in a privacy centric and compliant way.
So there's a human component in addition to a tech component.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And what are some of the forces driving retail media or commerce media right now? What would you say?
I think that I was saying earlier that we are at a point now where you just cannot do it alone. Meaning that you need access to other partners and you need access to the data, because as a consumer, as a brand, you're never going to know everything that you can about me as a consumer. And I think taking that and the fact that now you have really big brand budgets with companies that don't have access to data, a lot of data, but are becoming more and more data driven. And then you have companies like retailers, as an example, that are very data driven and have access to a lot of data and are building up their media capabilities. And it's kind of been a bit of a match made in heaven, being able to bring these capabilities together. And I think that's kind of how we started and got here.
Well, what are some of the obstacles hindering progress?
Yeah, I think there's quite a few. When you think about the usage of data and sharing data, that is scary for a lot of people. We need to better educate and evangelize what that really means, and we need to do it for legal teams. We need to do it for media buying teams. We need kind of across the gamut, because people interpret it so vastly different, and so that piece of it is that's a huge obstacle. And so when I think about all of those things, it's really about evangelization and education around how the data is going to be used. I say legal, I say all of that, but it's also about how do you have the right rules around how that data gets used across partners? And that's not always really easy to define.
When you talk about how data is being used, how does it impact the customer experience?
Yeah. So ultimately, all of this should be about enhancing the consumer and customer experience. And when I think about it, if I can give an example, if I'm working, let's say, with a brand or a retailer that might know my shopping behaviors one way, but then if United or Delta or an airline is working with me, they understand a different buying behavior. Imagine the power of being able to share insights across that, so that a retailer might better understand my travel habits. And if you start to understand that, they can then give me a much more personalized and timely ad, right, or offer, or whatever it is that enhances my experience. That's just like a simple one for me.
Is there, in some cases, too many retail networks? Let me rephrase that.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think. How many retail networks is too many for an agency to use?
Yeah.
Or is that even a truth?
It is a truth. I think that, frankly, everybody is trying to define their value because it's exploded, right? When you think about the opportunities around building out a media network and being able to leverage data on the retail side, and really, we talk about retail, you can talk about travel, you can talk it more broadly from a commerce standpoint. The reality is, if you're looking at that, I think the first thing you have to look at is who is your audience and how can you reach them across that media network, and what are their differentiated audiences, because that's so critical. And then how can you find incremental opportunities and incremental value with new media networks? Can there be too many? Absolutely. But if you ask me how many, I wouldn't be able to tell you today because of where we are in this process. And again, I go back to where are your consumers? How can you find out more? Really looking at the data assets and evaluating that.
Okay. I'm just curious, and this is maybe me being a newbie in this space, but can you bundle media networks? Can you create almost like a
macro,
like a network of networks, an Uber network?
Yeah. Could you? Technically, yes.
Yeah.
I think we are at a place right now where every single retail media network or commerce media network is really trying to drive the value of their data, their consumer touch points, and their media. Where I think the next step is going to be is being able to leverage technology like clean rooms so that brands that want access to that can now have at least a more consistent view across all of those media networks. Can we go down technically a network of networks? Absolutely. Are we going to? Probably not in the near future.
Okay. And the future of clean rooms, tell me a little what your thoughts are there.
Yeah, I actually think from a clean room future standpoint, I think it is going to start to be the technology in general that every single partner is going to share and interact with across everything. If you think about cookie deprecation, let's just call it signal loss in general, right? The ability to be able to get access to all of this data that was previously inaccessible all of a sudden becomes a really nice, people have an appetite for that. And while cookie deprecation and signal loss is real, now you start to be able to look at partners like Pinterest and Snap. All of a sudden they're able to share data in a way that they didn't before. And so you're starting to actually get more signals potentially through a clean room. So I think they're going to become more and more critical. And I think we're just scratching the surface with what they can unlock.